All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. This will be part 2 of the Un-Hemi swapping my Dodge Challenger. So let me show you some of my options here and show you what I think I'm going with. So option number 1, and it would probably be the easiest, I think. This is a 360 Magnum that I got a few years back. I did actually hear it run recently with this goofy carb spacer adapter that I adapted on with a piece of cardboard, and it was fun. Anyway, it does have oil pressure currently. I have no idea about anything else on this engine. The guy said it was running. I put a points distributor in it so I could just crank it up on my run stand. So all this would take is an oil pan swap and the 4-barrel intake, wash it off, put a water pump on it, and go. I mean, pulleys, obviously, but easy little stuff. I think I even have some car manifolds I could stick on here, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Let's look at option number 2. Here's option number 2, and supposedly this is a ready-to-build. It needs a good couple days cleanup. Ready to build 440. You can see this right there. So I think this is a 68 or 9 model block. It's got new cam plugs in it, freeze plugs. I think it's even been finish honed, but I don't know enough about this engine to actually build it right now. And that would take a long process. I'd also need a rotating assembly and basically everything for it. So I'm probably going to take that one off the list. Here is option number 3 that I think I'm going with. If you've been following the channel, I promised at some point I was going to put this in my Dart Sport and put a turbo on it. And that's been 4 or 5 years ago. And I have not painted the Dart Sport even. So this is not ready for any of that. So my plan with this, it does have a 4-barrel intake on it, but it's old cast iron. I've got actually got a little torquer intake I could put on here. And I figured if I'm doing that, I might as well match a simple cam to it. So I'll have more on that later. But if I'm doing cam and intake, I definitely want to do a timing set because this one's probably sloppily worn out. And if I'm doing those steps, I've got to reseal this oil pan, so I might just, I'll do a windage tray. Simple stuff. This is kind of like the week 2 sort of rebuild that a lot of guys would do back in the day to get performance out of their stuff. It's still going to be a flat hydraulic flat tappet cam. I have started and ran this engine. I can put a link up to that. And this was the one that Uncle Tony said he was certain that the bearings would be roached in it because it's got a new oil pump. And it looks like that might be a high volume oil pump. If I can get up to it. So I did kind of a investigation on what I thought some of the rebuild was in this. So as for today, if I'm doing the cam and I'm doing the intake, I think I may go ahead and pop these heads off and get me a little valve job. Just because they're totally filthy and nasty. I'd like to paint the engine up nice, get it in the car, make it a good runner. This is a 400. I want to say 77 or 78, so it's low compression. And I'll see what the cylinder walls look like. And that'll kind of determine where I move forward from there. So let's get it up on a stand and take it apart. Here is our Cream Puff 400. I'll get you zoomed in here. It's not terrible, but it's not really good. Stuff like that looks really bad, so that's another good reason to pull these heads off. I'm not using this cam. It would clean up probably and be reusable if you needed to, but I want a little bit more performance. So rocker arms are clean-ish. Well, we got her cleaned up pretty nice. Just the deck scrubbing and tops of the pistons cleaned off. You can it's kind of cool to see little tiny E right there. and there's a big E down here. And I believe Rodney Bird was the one that explained to me last time, there's a D. They would go through and measure pistons, or measure bores, grab a piston to fit those holes, so that's kind of cool. It says 400, I believe it's a 78 model. I'm not sure on 523. The E means cast crank. I just looked this up. And the Maltese cross and the X is 10 thousandths undersize bearings. I'm not sure if it was rods or mains. I'll double check. But cylinder walls, there's a little bit of ridge. This shininess here, like where some water, moisture set, you can't feel any of that. But I don't see any crosshatch left here, so I hate to start and run an engine that's, or you know, go any further with one that's just slap dab worn out without giving it a little bit of something. So let me flip it over and we'll do something here. Here's what I came up with. I remember last time I pulled a piston out, the bearings looked that nice. And that is a little bit of water staining, but the top side, or actually the bottom side shell, looks even better than that on the rods. Really, really, really nice. I'm not really interested in putting bearings in this thing. I wanted it to be a simple, quick and simple build. Not even really a build, just a cam install. And it's moved a little. So I got my micrometer out and I mic'd this piston. And I checked it twice. It was 4.3424. So 4.342. I left it locked and I set my dial indicator or dial bore gauge up here exactly on that, at 0. So whatever it reads, it should read. It'll tell me how much clearance right now there is in the large spots in the block where the ring groove is the worst and all that stuff. Because in a perfect world, I could take this, pop these pistons and crank out, take this thing to Rick Seaman, and he could hone it for me because he likes to do that sort of thing. And I put these pistons right back in the same hole, right back in the same engine, and everything's happy. So let's go see. My plan is rapidly changing as the day moves on. But fortunately, let me just show you first. So I slid my dial board down. You can kind of see that spot where the piston has never ran before, okay? Let's see where we're at. And this is piston to wall clearance from the piston that was in there. So right at 3 thousandths, okay? See if I can zoom us out just a little bit. Now as I slide it upward, if I can hold it straight, it stayed there. It kind of stays there. Little movement. Still about 3, halfway up. Three and a half. Hard to do that with your left hand and hold the camera. Now we're gonna soon drop in. Uh-oh. You see what's happening here? There's 6. Okay. I'm to the point of no return where it hits that giant ring ridge. There and there. Hello, 15. I'll slightly go in. There's 7. Jumps right to 10. 11. 15. So we can say there's 12 thousandths extra piston to wall clearance that we don't need in this engine right now, and that was the worst cylinder. So I am not, cannot, will not, there's no way I can do that and put that in my 1970 Dodge Challenger RT Vanishing Point clone car. But I've got builds going on for all kinds of people all over the US, and even some of your favorite YouTubers out there, Mopar YouTubers especially. And I hate to give up a good 400 block, but usually when it happens, it turns into more than a 400. So maybe I can think more on that 440, since, you know, Vanishing Point Challengers usually like 440s. I appreciate y'all watching and coming along with this short journey with me. I don't know if I got an answer yet, but that'll wrap up part 2. All right, Mopar people.